Tell me if this sounds like you. You walk into a room and you immediately can feel the energy in the room shift. Loud environments drain you super fast, faster than most people. You tend to replay conversations in your head over and over and over, analyzing every angle long after those conversations are over. You need more time than most people to answer questions that have any level of depth to them. And conflict, even mild conflict, feels really disruptive to your day. You notice subtle details that other people miss. You are particularly moved by art or music. You need downtime to decompress, even on moderately busy days. And even if the moderately busy days were good days, you still need to decompress before you can take on the rest of the world. Things like smells, noise, visual clutter disturb you to the point of no return. You don't know how you know things, you just know. And you're often told, you're too sensitive. If so, then you might be what's called a highly sensitive person. And it doesn't mean that you're too sensitive. What if your nervous system just processes things differently? Let's talk for a minute about what a highly sensitive person is, or an HSP. Because this trait is massively misunderstood, because that's what this channel is going to be about. Because yes, I am an HSP. So what is an HSP? The term highly sensitive person was coined by psychologist Elaine Aron in the 1990s. It's not a disorder, it's not a diagnosis, and it's not something that you have to fix. It's a temperament trait. It's present in 15 to 20% of the population. And what it means simply is that we respond differently to stimuli, all kinds of stimuli, than the other 80 to 85% of the population. We're all about depth. We experience things more deeply than the majority of the world. We don't just notice things. No. We analyze them. We replay them. We reflect on them. An HSP person's brain tends to pick up on subtle details that other people miss. We tend to feel emotions very deeply. We become overstimulated more easily than most people, and we're highly conscientious, and we need downtime to reset. And this shows up in our everyday life. You may feel particularly drained after a social gathering, or you may need extra time to think before responding. You can be deeply moved by music and art. You can notice shifts in people's moods instantly, and you kind of struggle in chaotic environments. It's because we're wired differently. It's also important to talk briefly about what an HSP is not. So let's clear up a few myths. It's not the same as being an introvert. 30% of HSPs are actually extroverts, so they're not exactly the same thing. You can love people, but still get overstimulated. It's not anxiety. Anxiety is fear-based. An HSP is how you process things. An HSP can develop anxiety if you're consistently overwhelmed, but they don't necessarily go hand in hand. So it's not a weakness. In fact, many HSPs are very resilient and strong because we've learned to adapt. We think ahead, we anticipate consequences, and we care very, very deeply. It's not about being dramatic or wanting to be the center of attention. Most HSPs tend to hide their reactions because we've learned that they're different from other people's. It's that we internalize more, and we've learned to process quietly. So if anything, we tend to appear very calm on the surface while we're running a full emotional gamut of emotions on the inside. Let's talk a minute about the HSP nervous system. Our nervous systems are simply more susceptible to stimulation. So it's like having brighter brights, louder louds, deeper feelings, and stronger internal reasoning. So the consequence of that means crowds, noise, multitasking, conflict. These things are harder for us to manage. But it also means beauty hits harder, meaning hits deeper, insight comes naturally, and empathy runs very strong among HSPs. It's not just sensitivity to stress, it's sensitivity to everything. Why does knowing about this trait matter? If you don't understand the trait of being an HSP, you will probably spend years of your life trying to toughen up, trying to become less effective, less thoughtful, less reactive. But the real shift comes when you finally understand your wiring and start designing your life accordingly. Instead of asking, what the heck is wrong with me? If I had a nickel for every time I asked myself that question in my younger days, I'd be a millionaire. Not what's wrong with me, but what works in this situation for my nervous system. And really, that changes everything. Here's a little bit about my personal HSP story, and I will make a separate video with all the details of that. But just a quick little thumbnail sketch. I never heard of the term HSP until I was in my 40s. I just thought I was perpetually difficult. I thought I was too picky, too controlling, very short-tempered, definitely too whiny as a child. I was bothered by things that didn't bother other people. I smelled things other people didn't smell. I have so many stories about things I've smelled that other people don't smell that it's actually very amusing. Let's see. I heard things other people didn't hear. I felt things more deeply than other people felt. And overthinking things, oh my God, I was the queen of overthinking. And until I heard the term HSP in my 40s, I never factored in the plus side of being what I was. The reality is I pick up on nuances quicker than most people. I anticipate consequences better than most, and I can read a room better than anybody I know. I can adjust my approach based on this subtle feedback that I'm getting just by standing still and paying attention. I'm doing this subconsciously. I don't even realize that I'm doing it. That is one of the positive aspects of being an HSP. I sense danger before other people do. I always tell people I'm the canary in the coal mine. I will pick up on something that is off much quicker than the other people in my life. I see repeating behavioral patterns more quickly than most people, and I pick up on just subtle nuances, which really helped me in my career when I was in the workforce. Now, many HSPs say they need extra time to process their thoughts when they're asking questions, and this is a good example where not all HSPs are homogenous. We differ. We have different strengths and weaknesses throughout the category of being an HSP. I'm a little different in that regard, in that my brain acts so quickly and almost subconsciously to process facts and nuances. Although I do think things through very deeply, I come to decisions very quickly. And I don't feel like I've rushed to make those decisions. It's just kind of a superpower that I have, that I can process things very fast in my head and decide what it is I want to do in a relatively short amount of time. My emotional intelligence is off the charts, which is true for many HSPs. Just don't overschedule my day or I'll just implode. That's the trade-off of being an HSP. Why am I starting this channel? I'm starting this channel because I vividly remember the day that I first stumbled across the term HSP and I felt seen for the first time. No kidding, I remember where I was, what I was doing, and how I felt. It was one of those top 10 life moments that is, I hate this term, but it was true, life-changing. And I remember all the details about it because it was such a big deal. You know, that all-encompassing exhilaration of, oh, that explains everything. And I'm hoping I can be that moment for someone else, or at least on a smaller scale, offer some practices, some ideas for how to navigate life as an HSP. I also like the idea of this channel being a safe community where HSPs can interact with each other without judgment, and realize that you do have a community of like-minded people out there, or like-wired people out there. And I looked around, there's not much content about highly sensitive people. Some, like mental health channels or people who are talking about minimalism and living a Zen life, they will devote a couple of videos to being an HSP, but there wasn't much out there just about offering resources to HSPs. There's some material out there about what an HSP is and all this stuff, but actual designing your life around this trait, I couldn't find anything like that. And I don't want the channel to be something about that you have to heal or manage or fix. There's nothing wrong with us. It's just the way we're wired. Being highly sensitive, it's not a mental disorder. It's not a flaw. It's not something I'm trying to treat. I'm not a psychologist or any kind of a mental health counselor. What I'm interested in this, how do we live well knowing that this is how we are wired? How do you structure your day so that you're not constantly overstimulated? How do you handle relationships when you feel everything so deeply? How do you make decisions without second guessing yourself for weeks on end? So this channel is about practical insight. We're going to talk strategy, environment, boundaries, routines, real life adjustments, designing a life that works with your nervous system as opposed to constantly fighting against it. If any of this resonates with you, you're probably an HSP. What I would recommend is that you pick up the book by Elaine Aron. There's a link to it in my description. There's a test in the very first chapters, and actually on her website, I think there's a place where you can take the test electronically, and I'll put links to those also in the description. If it turns out you're an HSP, don't panic. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not too fragile. You just process the world differently. So in future videos, we're going to talk about how to design your environment, your routines, your work, and your relationships in ways that support this trait. Because sensitivity is not a flaw, it's just information. And when you understand it, it will truly become one of your greatest strengths.